Jonny was very good at being a visionary. I looked like a freak. I hung out with the freaks at night, drugs with the bands. The difference was at 9 in the morning, they called it a day. Jonny went to the office. I wouldn't have used the word drug addict, but I am certainly high all the time. I've just been threatened by a mob guy. My manager has turned on me. Now I'm just pissed. I was out of control. I just wanted the heroin to slow me down. I'm fucking crazy. I couldn't even make it home without stopping with the pipe in a driveway. It's 4 in the morning. Now there's 4 police cars. It's 4 in the morning. It's Englewood, New Jersey, a quiet town. Sirens are blasting. I'm freaking out. I'm trying to get rid of the evidence. I turn off to the railroad tracks and the car breaks down. Pulled out of the car, handcuffed, kicking me in the rib. Guess what I was thinking about? What am I going to tell Monica?
Green lights and blue skies are on their way. Yeah, they're on their way.
Hey, welcome to Crosstalk. Really happy to have you today. We have a great interview for you to enjoy. There are a couple of things that I have to tell you. First off, Crosstalk, as you may know, is the #1 podcast for recovery and living healthy, and to try to help bring messages, bring stories, bring information to people who are struggling or people who are sober, who want to stay sober, inspiring stories. And today we have a really inspiring guest. I'm so excited to introduce Jonny P to you, and I'll do so in a moment. Just want to tell you a couple of things. First, I want you to hit that bell, smack the shit out of that bell notification. Follow us and share on social media and subscribe to our channel. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Give us comments. We'll respond to you. We'll answer your questions, and we'd like to hear more from you. It helps the things that we have to offer you get enhanced and improved, and we're really looking forward to continuing what we're doing over a long period of time. We got some exciting things coming up on our platform, which you'll hear about in the next week or so. We have something called There's lots of great things coming on Crosstalk. One of the things you'll be hearing about soon is Crosstalk All Across. All Across is going to be a site where you can post your videos online and share your own stories with our viewers, with everybody across the world, across the United States. So you can tell us how you did it, how you stayed sober, and how things are going for you. Our job, it seems to me, is to bring your stories to everybody else. And if you can use our platform to do that, wonderful. That's exactly what we're looking to do. We're looking to stay sober and help you stay sober. And if you know anybody who might need to watch if you know anybody who might need to hear what we have to say, please tell them about us and share our link, share our www.crosstalkofficial.com. And today I'm really excited to interview a very, very good friend of mine, a new friend, but somebody who I'm delighted to know and delighted to interview. His name is Jonny P. Jonny, how you doing?
Hey, man, great. Great to see you. Thank you.
So happy that you're here with me.
And I'm so happy to be here. I couldn't wait. I wanted to come early today.
Before we started this interview,
Yeah.
we each looked at each other, and I saw a look in your eyes and the way you present yourself, the way you speak. You reminded me of Shelley Barron, somebody who helped me for 20 years in my road to recovery over the years. And I've never seen anybody or spoken to anybody that gave me that feeling. So I'm feeling like I'm with a mentor. I'm feeling like I'm with a friend. And I'm so excited to share your story with everybody and to hear more about it myself.
Great. I'm flattered.
So what do you want to do? You want to start with your early years? Tell us a little bit about you growing up, and then I don't think I'm going to have to say too much because I've listened for a while and you have a lot to tell us.
Yeah. I want to bookmark one thing we talked about before the interview.
Okay.
So when I get to, I'll remember the story in Las Vegas.
Is there a word you want me to call out to remind you?
Vegas.
Vegas. Okay.
So I was born in New York, lower middle class family, but we had everything. There was 4 of us in a 1-bedroom apartment. I mean, in a 1-room apartment, but we had everything. There was love in the house. My parents were childhood sweethearts. They smoked, which was of the time. Barely drank. I I think they only would have a drink. They'd be in the kitchen, and I'd catch them. They're having this shot of scotch, and they go, Mommy and Daddy are going to go take a nap now, so don't disturb us. I finally figured out what that meant. They go, so don't come in because we're going to be napping. And when I finally figured it out, I went and bought every girly magazine I could for when they were in there, I could open them up and do my thing.
And you could nap.
And then I could nap. Very good. So they were really loving. I looked up to my dad. I admired my dad. I respected my dad. But I didn't want to be my dad. My dad was what you would call square. 9 to 5, suit and tie, never late, never drunk. Looked at my mother like she was Elizabeth Taylor. And my mother looked at my dad the same way. They loved each other more than they loved the kids. And the reason I say that, I now have a second family. I have 2 grown children, and now I have 2 little children. And I see the way me and my wife are. It's all about the children. It's like not about us. When my mom and dad, they loved us, but they had a thing, My dad died prematurely in his 60s during a heart transplant. But anyway, so it was a very predictable house. What day of the week is it? Oh, Wednesday? Oh, it's pot roast and a half a grapefruit. Oh, wait, it's Thursday. Oh, it's chicken parmesan. Nothing changed. It was boring and predictable, which probably is a really wonderful way for a child to grow up. I see it now. My current house is chaotic. It's nuts. You could call it exciting, but it's crazy. And I don't know the impact I'm dreading that it might have on the children. Ours was boring and predictable. So upon reflection of how I grew up, and then my first marriage and kids, and now I'm thinking that boring and predictable, which I hated, is a good grounding space in the formative years.
So square, would you call that square, or was that just your dad's personality?
No, my dad, my dad, I really don't know how to define it. By the way, never cursed. I never in my house heard shit, ass, or damn. My current 7-year-old Joaquin is fuck, 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 fuck. Daddy, look, black light. Fuck, fuck, fuck. And I keep trying to explain. I never heard. My house was sterile. It was sterile and sweet. But I didn't want to live that life. You got it? And my mother, she taught me, they gave me life. They taught me how to be a man. My mother taught me the value of friends. She was obsessed with go out and make friends. No, Mom, I don't feel good today. I have to go out and make friends. And and that turned out right. And then my dad, who I can tell you about later, but my dad, after working, my dad discovered the plastic baby bottle. For these younger people that are listening, they think plastic baby bottle is what a baby bottle is. It used to be glass. Give it to the baby, takes a sip, smashes it, gives it a smash. So my dad went to work for this company that was experimenting with polyethylene. He had an idea and it boomed. He didn't own the company. He became president and the thing exploded. And he would work 7 days a week, no vacations. And then after 4 years, I was 9. He said to the president, he said, I really need time off to be with my family. He said, well, we can't right now. We're now first going to go into Europe. And my dad said, no, I don't think you understand. I need time to be with my family. He said, Milt, that's impossible. My dad said, I resign. I'll never forget that. I'm going to cry. And he took us on an 8-week trip across country in the first class sleeper cars, the legendary Broadway Limited, the Denver Zephyr, and at every city we stopped, I just watched him. I watched how he tipped people. I watched how he got a room. I saw the opening of Disneyland, the first Dodger game, and it was just watching, and we were the family. And at the time, I didn't realize, but upon reflection, oh, by the way, my dad never got a good job again. He never had a good job before, and he never had a good job after, even though he graduated from Columbia, etc. And so I learned the importance of friends, and family always come first. Forget money, forget business. And that's how I've lived my life. I ran the music department worldwide at a company called ICM for many years. And they did for Christmas, they made a video of me, and it was kind of mocking, I guess respectfully though, how I would be in with my boss, a real stiff, the opposite of me. I'm the most buttoned up, he was the most unbuttoned up, and a guy would interrupt and you never interrupt. And he'd say, Johnny, Michael Bolton's on the phone. I go, call him back. Knock, knock. Johnny, Michael Jackson's on the phone. Tell him I'll call him back. Johnny, Cassidy's on the phone. Hi, Cass, how are you? And that's the way I live my life.
And Cass is your son.
And Cass is my oldest son, who, it's funny, we're talking recovery. My son is a very successful DJ. He flies around the world. He's probably out 250 nights a year. They stay up all night. And to this day, my son has never had a drink, a drug, a cigarette, or an aspirin.
Wow.
So you tell me there's no God. I mean, unbelievable. He's never had anything. So anyway, getting back to my upbringing. So it was very, very normal, in the 50s style of normal. And then I went to school, went to high school, graduated, uneventful, to college. We went to the city school system. We had no money. Went to Queens College for a year. Then went to Baruch, the business school of City College, for 3 years. And then I went to NYU to take graduate work. So people were thinking I was an academic, but I wasn't, and I'm not. It's just, I only had two interests, girls and the New York Yankees. Those two things are still with me, obsessed with both. And I knew that the minute, so I didn't have any real vocation or vocational dreams. So I knew the minute I get out of school, what is my mother going to say? So, get a job, be an accountant. So I kept going. I even went to a year of Brooklyn Law School. And then one day in study hall, 500 people in a big auditorium, and I slammed the book and I go, I can never read another book again. Now what the fuck was I going to do? By the way, all this time living at home.
What age are you now?
So I'm 21.
So 21.
So I graduated high school at 16. I graduated college. I think I was 19 and a half. I got the graduate degree at, I don't think I was 21. Yeah, 21, 22.
Right.
And still living in Queens. Green. I mean, I was green. Listen to this.
What do you mean by green?
I'm going to tell you, like naive. I came home one day. Baruch, for those of you that do not live in the city, is a city. It's in Manhattan. It's on 23rd and Lexington. That's our campus. I come home one day and I'm white. Not green, I'm white. My mother says, what's wrong? I said, there's junkies in school. She goes, what do you mean? I said, somebody offered me marijuana. That's what I mean by green. Who knew what was to transpire? So I live at home, and now I got to make my way in the world. So through one circumstance or another, I taught school for a year. That was just to get out of the Army.
What subject did you teach?
I taught elementary school. Loved it. I could tell you about a flight on the Boeing customized 747 that Led Zeppelin named the Starship. Nobody had ever seen anything like it. Custom interior, fit for kings and sultans. And I had gotten friendly with Jimmy Page, very friendly. Didn't represent him. They didn't have an agent. And one day, the Starship was in New York, but it had to get to L.A. So Jimmy and I said, well, why don't we just go? Like, that was those days. It wasn't corporate. It was just great. So you walk into this plane. It's opulent. There's a sexy, then they called them stewardesses, hostess, flight personnel, and my wife, Monica, the most beautiful girl in New York. And everybody in rock and roll love her. And go to the back of the plane. There's a bedroom, circular bed, purple velvet cover, and there's me and Jimmy. Any civilian's dream, right? And we're sitting there doing lines of coke, lines of coke, lines of coke.
Had you done that before? Were you already into
Oh, yeah. I guess I moved fast forward, so I'll go back to when that started.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you this quick story. Yeah, this is, I got turned on to cocaine in my first year as an agent. And the story of how I became an agent, not terribly exciting.
music agent?
Music agent at a mid-level agency. We didn't have the A-list acts. we had kind of the B-list acts, but names. And what happened, the guy that hired me, and I had no experience, quit 6 months later. And I became the head of the department de facto. Didn't know what usually, I don't know about you, most people I know have been mentored, meaning you med school, you intern, a lawyer, you work at somebody's desk, agent, you're an assistant first, you learn. I didn't. The guy just made me an agent. I think I was a kind of a long head. I had been to Carnaby Street right after the Beatles explosion. The one thing about teaching, you don't get paid, but you get the summers off. And I went kind of looking like, regular people, and came back, long hair, velvet pants, high heel shoes, flower shirts. And Jonny Podell was born.
And we're in 1960.
We are in 1968, and I get this job, and I think the reason I was hired is they hired a black guy, and they hired me. I think it was basically to diversify then, to make sure there was like a token black guy and a token hippie. My boss was smart enough to see that. And me and Mike, we had no clue. He came from a musical family. His father was a big guy in jazz. I came from my house. And somehow I got into it. And near the beginning, people came in, and a couple of guys offered me a line of cocaine after the meeting. And I went, damn, this was good. I hated weed. Weed got me so paranoid. And to show you how dumb I was, but maybe a lot of people can identify, I kept smoking it. And I kept getting paranoid. And I kept freaking out. And I kept smoking it. Then I'm on an airplane. I can't get off for 5 hours. And I'm like having a bad trip. And then it finally dawned on me. I wasn't an addict yet. If this makes you feel bad, why are you doing it? I never smoked a joint again. But when I found cocaine, turned me into Superman. And let me finish the Jimmy Page story. But then I'll go back to the beginnings of an agent, and then I'll move on. So it's about 5 years later. I had met Jimmy. They were a very closed organization. Their manager was a former bouncer, East End guy, who him and Jimmy came up with this. Jimmy was the session player. They came up with this, I will form this big group. And Peter Grant, who was the manager, never let anybody in. There was 4 of them. There was him. The road crew was 6 tough East End kind of delinquents / gangsters, and nobody got in the inner circle. There was one guy that did. They played for only one promoter instead of local promoters. Then you used to play for a guy in Boston, a guy in Philly, a guy in New York. And remember that I'm an agent. Most businesses are like this. There's a buyer, a seller, and a can of peas. I'm the seller. The can of peas is whoever you want to talk, Alice Cooper, Led Zeppelin. And the buyer is the promoter. They only did one promoter. This Peter kept everything very insular, I think is the word. Mm-hmm. And there was one guy they let in, and they allowed him to promote Pittsburgh. That guy, it turned out, was my father of my wife's sister's best friend. And he also managed a small jazz act, Mongo Santa Maria, that the agency had before I came. So, of course, he wanted to woo me because, when a new agent comes, if you're a good manager, you get in there and shower him with everything. And I could never figure out how Jack had this one day he says to me, and Jack had this thing that was called pharmaceutical cocaine. You can't buy it. Most people can't get it. And it is there's a spiritual word for it. And he had access to it. Therefore, Jack became the promoter of Pittsburgh, and he now became the 6th insider. So Jack one day says to me, the company's name was ABC, and he says, JP, you want to come meet Led Zeppelin? Now, by that, I didn't tell you the beginning. I'm sorry I'm going all over, but my first 4 acts wound up to be Alice Cooper, the Allman Brothers. Then a few years later, Crosby, Stills, Nash Young, and George Harrison.
I've heard of some of them. That's a pretty impressive
Yeah.
list of your first 4.
Don't know how it happened. They became the 4 biggest acts in the world. Well, George already was as a Beatle, and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, the Allmans and Alice I built from the bottom up. And because I look different, agents, people are confused. If you go up to a booking agency even now, they don't wear ties anymore. Nobody wears ties, but it's suits and clean looking. Every agency then, suit. And along came Johnny, the flower child from Carnaby Street. And what was different and what really, upon reflection, made me unique, if I could, is because I looked like a freak. I hung out with the freaks at night. I did the same, it turned out, drugs with the bands, slept with the same girls with the bands. The difference was, at 9 in the morning, they called it a day. Johnny went to the office. And Johnny was very good at being a visionary. I could see somebody and go, they got it, and these are the steps they should make to do. I don't know where that came from, but it came. And but the reason I stood out, because I guess if you studied the history of the music business, there's probably other fast starters like David Geffen, etc. But because I looked and behaved so differently, I stood out. I stood out. And it actually served me well. So by now, everyone's knocking on my door. You name it. Everybody I had left to open up my own company was called BMF, Bad Motherfucker. How that came, Alice Cooper was interviewed in a magazine. By now, I had taken him from 12 people at CBGB's to headlining in 74 countries. He's doing an interview, and at the end they go, and by the way, what's the story with this agent of yours? He says, man, Jonny Podell is a bad motherfucker. And it stuck. And the company became BMF.
Wow.
T-shirts, tour jackets, first tour jacket, the first everything.
You know, it occurs to me that what you're describing sounds really outside the box, both in that era and today's era. But really, if you cut down to it, you connected with these people.
Yeah.
And that's what that was about.
Yeah. Well, I think on a basic level, I remember when I discovered Blondie and they go, oh my God, let's fire our manager and our agent. Because I could think, see, I could stay up all night, go to the office, and I could still, I don't want to use the word brilliant, but I was still really pretty smart. And I also had some skills with numbers, which I don't think was a big deal, but I could do a 5-figure calculation, meaning the answer is 54,270. I didn't need a computer, and I could do it that quick. So I was fast, I was sharp, I was a visionary, and the acts. So I remember Debbie Harry going, oh my God, let's get rid of Peter. They had this stiff suit, uptight manager, I forget his last name. You know, it's for a lot of artists, it was a dream. Our agent is cool. Our agent's not a suit. Our agent's one of us. And yet he's as good as any agent in the business. Who wouldn't want that? So by now, by the way, so the introduction to cocaine was slow in the sense that there were 2 managers, one of Alice Cooper and one of an act named Dr. John. They'd come to see me 2-3 times a year, and at the end of our meeting, there'd be a line of coke. I remember I started really looking forward to seeing them, but never bought it on my own. But the seed had been planted.
So it was Yankees, girls, and cocaine now.
Well, yes, but cocaine wasn't of that importance yet.
Okay.
It was introduced. And, but what happened, I got big fast. I married the most beautiful and sought-after girl in New York. Everybody wanted Monica, including Mick Jagger. Everybody. And she only loved one person, Jonny Podell. To this day, we're still friends. She still loves me, and we have 2 great kids. And the cocaine use started to increase. I started to make more money. I started hanging out with fancy pants people. And it was my drug. Never liked drinking, gave me heartburn. Never liked weed, maybe paranoid. Tried some psychedelics, liked that, loved that, magic carpet ride. I only experienced that many years later in 2012 when I had a full-on spiritual awakening and I was on a different type of magic carpet ride, not hallucinating, but kind of in another dimension.
Well, let's save that.
So let me continue with this, the arc. So what's happening now is I got these 4 acts. Oh, nobody had ever had a boutique agency before. There were 5 booking agencies. They had offices in 5 cities, L.A., New York, Chicago, maybe Miami, and Dallas. They booked everybody. They booked Frank Sinatra. They booked rock and roll. They booked big bands. I left my company, and I opened up BMF. It was the first boutique agency. I only had 4 clients, and I only had 1 assistant, and I did all that. And now, though, the drug use is increasing, but I'm still sharp. And I'm loving it. It didn't go to my head in the way that I didn't think I was better than anybody. I thought I was luckier than everybody. Like, in that sense, I guess humility probably has been there for a long time, although it did not appear on the outside because I had a swagger. And then and even now, my friends tend to be not those people. Like, I notice now everybody thinks I got every fancy name on speed dial. My buddies, the people I talk to every day, are strugglers, blue-collar people. I identify with blue-collar people. I guess that's an AA thing. We are strugglers. You don't get to AA if you're not struggling. So I really identify with the struggle, and I think people that struggle, and it doesn't have to be just addicts, but people that have had to struggle with mental health or tough family lives, they're deeper. They had to be deeper. If you're young and beautiful and a rock star, maybe you didn't develop anything. So Jonny Podell personally likes strugglers. So the use is being, now I'm meeting everybody. Monica and I are invited to everybody. The Truman Capote's white party, Andy Warhol, everybody wants to know us. We were the couple, and everybody's knocking on my door. Like, people are impressed by, we could, if you want, at the end, list all my hotshot 5-star clients in my career. The ones I turned down, because somebody said, how did you just turn down so-and-so? They knocked on your door, they begged. I said, I don't have time. Right now I make a lot. I was never about money. I said, I make a lot of money. I was never like, how can I make more? How can I grow the business? I said, I make a lot of money. It's simple. 1 assistant, 4 acts, big tours, and I have time to party. If I take on this one or that one, it's going to cut into my fun time.
And you may not be as capable or as...
Well, that didn't enter my mind. You may be right, but that didn't enter my mind.
Right.
My reason was, well, wait, now I'm going to have to work an extra 2 hours a day? No.
Right.
My life
time for you.
My life was night.
It actually reminds me a little bit of your father's conversation with his boss, where he said, I need time for my family. Except you needed time for
my friends,
the non-square stuff.
My friends, exactly. Thank you for that. So what happened? Now everybody wants to know me. I know every famous person, and I'm not even anymore impressed by them. But when Jack said to me, going back, so now it's 1974. Now I'm 28, and I got the world at my feet, and I was a nice guy. I was never a jerk drug addict. I was nice. I wanted to share what I had with everybody. You know what I mean? If you were my friend back then and we were going out, I not only traveled in a limo, I sent a separate limo for you. I wasn't a, whatever the word is. And so fast forward now, Jack brings me to the garden. Oh, this was my point, that I knew everybody, but there were 2 people There were 4 people in my life that I wanted to meet. My childhood idol, Mickey Mantle. My childhood dream sex kitten, Bridget Bardot. Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. And I wouldn't have put Led Zeppelin in their class, but I would say I was equally as excited when Jack said, you want to meet them? I said, yeah. So we go to the garden, and if you've ever been backstage in an arena, these are basketball arenas. They're not made for rock and roll. Some of them now are. And there's just a group of offices and lockers. And usually, if you're a headliner, there's 200 people backstage. I don't even know why they're there. There's the pup, there's the family, there's the friends, there's the groupies, there's the drug dealers, there's the publicist, there's the manager, there's the agents, and everybody got assistants, there's the promoter, there's the producer, there's the... We walk backstage, there's not a human. All of a sudden, I've never seen that before or since. It would be like, I guess, if the president came and they swept everything. All of a sudden, at the end, a figure emerges off stage and somebody's putting a purple cape on him. During Led Zeppelin shows, they would take a 20-minute drum solo break for the other guys to get high. And I see this guy, long hair, somebody's putting and all of a sudden Jack goes, Pagey, Jimmy Page, I want you to meet somebody. And this was a moment for me. He looks up, he goes, you must be Jonny Podell. I remember that. It was one of the few feelings in my life. And I go, damn, Jimmy Page knows for me. I guess Jack had filled him too. We became very good friends. He loved to come to my apartment. I mean, they had customized suites at the Plaza Hotel. They had this customized. He'd call me, he goes, I'm going to be in New York. I say, you want to meet at the Plaza? He goes, oh, could I come over? Is Monica home? And we would just do lines of coke and blah, 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 talk. It was very sweet. So now we're on this plane ride. And we're in the back, we're doing lines. And the more we do it, the conversations are very simple. He was fascinated by the year I taught school. Fascinated. And I was curious. I had heard they put all this mega zillion dollars in tax shelters. I didn't know from tax shelter. I know you have a savings account. I think I had heard the Cayman Islands tax shelter. It wasn't the world I came from. We were simple people, we didn't have that money that we had to worry about sheltering it. And the more we talked, as druggies do, you start to talk quieter and you start to lean in. Now, we're leaning in, we're in the back on the round bed with the purple cover. We're leaning in, we're doing lines, we're starting to whisper. And those are the two subjects. And all of a sudden the door opens, it's Monica. And Jimmy goes, Monica, come in and close the door. And I never forget, I thought, wait, we're 35,000 feet up. Why are we whispering closer? You think we're going to get busted up here? That was a snapshot of what drugs and rock and roll are. 35,000 feet up. Monica, come here, lock the door. So these were some of the adventures I had. Now, I can tell you one adventure in that era. I came up with this idea. Always want to be the first. I mean, Alice Cooper really put me on the map. It was before Kiss, before everything. And nobody wanted him. When the manager came to my office, and he was buying all my acts for a festival, and he'd come twice a year, and he'd give me a line of coke. And then I heard that he managed this act, Alice Cooper. What is it? It's a woman. It's a man. And I heard he was horrible. And I kept praying, oh, don't ask me to represent him. And this was in the first year.
And who's doing the asking?
Shep Gordon. They made a movie of him called Supermensch that won all kinds of awards. And Shep says, this is about the second year. He goes, I want to talk to you. I have this client. And I go, Shep, I love you. I love the fact that you buy all my acts. Because usually they come in and cherry pick the big ones. He'd buy everything. He was preparing me. And I'd say, please don't ask me to represent him. I said, Shep, I heard they would CBGBs the other night and they drew 12 people. He said, I'll do you one better. The 12 people walked out. So I said, so I repeat, why would I want to represent him? He said, because hate and love are really the same energy. It's the other side of the coin. I need somebody like you to take all that hate and turn it into love. And
Wow.
I did it. And then Alice, once we broke through, because for years, how much is she? Hi, I want to talk about her. How much is she? It took me a while. And then we became this huge, he stood out like I did because he was different. The funny thing is, every few years I run into Gene Simmons, not a friendly guy. And I'll say, hey, Gene, Gene Simmons. And I always go, Gene, Jonny Podell. He goes, Bet you wish you took my call. That is the extent of our conversation for the last 40 years. It seems when Alice blew up, these kids in Queens said, maybe we could do that. Let's call his agent. And supposedly I didn't take the call. But I mean, can you imagine? Our conversation is only, bet you never took my, with a straight face. Not even how are you? So Alice became the calling card. I became a freak agent. Now I got a freak act. So we stood out. We stood out. So anyway, what happened? I had this brilliant idea. Brilliant. Why don't I bring Alice Cooper to Vegas? No rock act has ever played Las Vegas. Las Vegas was synonymous with who? Frank Sinatra, Wayne Newton, Sammy Davis Jr.
Stephen Eady and Sammy Davis.
Right. All the stuff my parents liked. No rock act. And I did it just to be different, to stand out. So I made a deal with the Sahara Hotel, took some talking into, and I was very full of myself. I said, so here's the deal. On the luggage carousels at the airport, for the 60 days before, I wanted all to say Alice Cooper on the date. I said, on the cards in the room that talk about future events, I want to say Alice. And I'm giving this guy all these orders. The guy, as it turned out, was a gangster that ran the place. So anyway, I got this idea. Then I called Dick Clark, who was my friend and the biggest TV guy in rock and roll. I said, Dick.
Hang on. For people that don't know, Dick Clark had this little show on ABC called
American Bandstand.
Right. So Dick Clark, he's gone now, probably more than a decade, but he was rock and roll.
He was rock and roll, and he was clean. And I'm going to tell you something about Dick Clark. And Dick, if you're listening, this is all true. The sweetest, nicest, kind. It never went to his head. He became the biggest name in television. The equivalent of Johnny Carson, but a different day and night
genre.
I call up Dick. He was so approachable. Everybody should be like that. No, like, I'm Dick Clark, make an appointment. I said, I'm bringing Alice Cooper to Vegas. I know it's crazy, but we're going to pull it off. Oh, and I told the guy I want billboards in Times Square. None of this had ever been done. And the guy's looking at me, but, he runs the hotel. He must be smart. He's thinking, maybe this madman has something. And I said and I made him take out ads in USA Today. You don't take ads out for one city in a national. That had never been done.
You don't sound like you're doing much coke at this time.
Oh, no, I'm doing a lot of coke. That's the thing. I could still function. Soon after, I was getting slightly sloppy, but still really good. I still discovered Blondie then. But no, I'm a functioning, I wouldn't have used the word drug addict, but I am certainly high all the time. But I was good. I mean, that's what this story is about. I was good until I wasn't. It worked until it didn't. And what else did I tell Dick? I said, I want you to round up every celebrity and fly in with a 747 so that the first night, I sold it for a week, the first night, it'll be news. I don't know if you realize the impact. Everything I did had never been done. Billboard and Times Square had never been done for Vegas. An ad for an artist in Vegas in USA Today, which had a gigantic reach. Carousel cards, room cards, elevator, music I demanded for 60 days out. You have to play Alice Cooper's music. And so it's all set. I'm so excited because I had gotten friendly with Peter Rudge. And Peter Rudge was a young guy like me, way more successful and way smarter. I had Alice Cooper and the Allman Brothers. Peter Rudge had The Who and the Rolling Stones. He wasn't even 30. And we got friendly. And drugs got us both separated from our wives, and we later became friends in, feeling sorry for each other. We had each other to cry on, and of course we'd solve that by snorting more coke. And by now we could afford it. So now we could afford, cocaine's expensive. I didn't have to wait.
And what age are you at this point?
28.
So you're 28, you're doing coke, you have the 4 acts, and you have Alice Cooper. And everybody else wants you, and now you're connecting with him. And I'm kind of waiting. You had a nice ride before things took over.
Yes, it did. I'm going to tell you a story which you and Sergio triggered before, so I'm up to that right now. Vegas? Yeah, Vegas. Okay. Thank you. So I'm in Vegas. So you have no idea. Because by now, again, never nasty, but I am full of myself. I am Jonny Podell, friends with Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, have these 4 gigantic acts. Crosby, Stills, and Nash Young that I did with the promoter of the Fillmore, Bill Graham, who had become my friend and mentor. First sold-out stadium tour. George Harrison, the first Beatle to go on tour. Allmans and Alice both made no money when I met them, and now they're superstars. And what am I going to do to top this act? By now, cocaine, I think, had taken over somewhat of my senses. Because now what I'm creating, yeah, great idea. I never thought, what if it didn't work? So the day's coming. I'm so excited. This is going to take agenting to another level. Forget what Vegas is now, you know? The shows go on sale. Too much value. We sell no tickets. I'm still feeling it. Dizzy. I'm going to make myself feel a bit like. And I'm in LA when I got this news. And there was no recovering from this news. Meaning there's certain rules of thumb. If you want to sell 10,000 tickets, you have to sell X amount the first day. There was no recovering from this. Usually you rationalize to yourself, okay, well, it was raining, so it'll sell. No, we knew. So it's near the end of the first week. We've sold no tickets. I'm staying at my friend Shep's house, Benedict Canyon. And I call my dad. By the way, wait till I didn't tell you that I bought a Rolls Royce during this run very early for my wife. And the first headliner that I ever had play Madison Square Garden was Alice Cooper. And I got to drive to Queens to pick up my mother and father. We all moved to Queens and picked them up in a Rolls Royce. And back then, Backstage could only handle 3 cars, which were usually the band and blah, blah. But I was allowed. And when I pulled into the bowels of that stadium with my mother and father kvelling, that was a moment too. But it's going to show you. So that was in maybe 72, and look what drugs did soon after. So now Vegas goes on sale. It's a flop. I call my dad, Dad. I'm crying. I said, Dad, how is this possible? Like, I never even thought it was possible. My daughter always says, Dad, do you think no rain's ever going to fall on you? I don't. My therapist of 30 years characterized me as pathologically optimistic. And I'm crying. I'm getting high and crying. He said, and you know, what does he know about this? He says, well, let's talk from the beginning. He says, why did you do it? And then I burst out crying. I said, Dad, I don't even know. I felt like such a... So what happened? The show goes on. Opening night. Dick brought some stars. A couple hundred people. I mean, you have no idea how deflating.
How many people in the stadium were in the
It's in arena? A showroom. We sold to a showroom. Maybe the showroom held anywhere from 700 to 1,000. Maybe we were trying to get 7,000 people over the week, but in territory never done before. It was in the same showroom where Sinatra and those guys played. It wasn't Arena Stadium, but it was. This experiment had never been tried. Now,
so you were less than half.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe we filled it the first night with the celebrities. Dick really came through. So I come in now. I'm higher than ever because I don't know how to deal with these emotions. I just know one thing: stay high, stay. And by now, I'm doing heroin too, sniffing heroin. I'm doing. And my only thought, no, I never. My only thought always is Monica's gonna kill me. My only thought, Monica's gonna kill me. Stayed loyal to the end, loyal to this day. It's great. Never took the kids away from me. Fucked up as I got and as I will continue. Never took the kids away. And there were times I could have understood it. No, she's the greatest. The greatest. So what happened? I get off. What am I going to do? these are major charges. Nobody had to tell me how many years. So earlier on, oh, I know what I did. I freak out. I call Led Zeppelin. We had gotten so friendly once that I was in LA and I heard they were in town rehearsing. By now, I had set a Guinness record of being thrown out of 6 hotels in 6 days in LA. And it was right around that time. It's the same time.
All drug related. Behavior.
Yeah,
related.
behavior.
Yeah.
And I remember, so I reach out Led Zeppelin because I want to know, what do they do when they do shit like this, right? So I walk into Studio Instrument Rental, famous SIR, and guess how I'm greeted? The 4 guys stop playing, get down on the ground, and we're not worthy. We're not worthy. The word has spread. And I said, great, I know it's funny to you. I'm scared to death. What do I do? What do you do? I know there's plenty of shit that they go. We used a guy named Harry Weiss, lawyer, drug lawyer in LA. He has a younger partner named Bob Shapiro. Call him, say we sent you. So I walk into this office, penthouse office, Beverly Hills. Never been to a lawyer's office with a swimming pool, whatever. Comes out to see me, sweet, inviting, just. He says, don't worry about this. I said, what are you kidding? He says, come, let's spend the day together, we'll talk. And what he basically told me, he said, listen, we're gonna get the hijacking charge dismissed because they're trying to try this in LA. I'm going to insist it gets tried in Denver because that's where the plane flew over during the incident. They're not going to want to fly 140 passengers as witnesses there. So we'll get you off that. And then on the other thing, I forget what he told me, but I said, are you sure I'm not going to go to jail? He said, no. I said, do me a favor, call my wife. And he says, Monica, you have nothing to worry about. He didn't do anything. He was fucked up. He said, and it's all good. I can't wait to meet you. And we become friends. And he's in my contacts, if you look. My hero, Bob Shapiro. This was before OJ, the best.
Same lawyer that defended OJ.
Yeah, but that's tainted him. I'm telling you, at that time, we were so scared, Monica and Jonny Podell. And he just said, relax. And then I spent the day and I watched how he works. He walked into the courthouse, sees a judge, gives him 4 front row tickets to the LA Lakers game. And then he takes and we go everywhere and he walks on another level and smooth and charming and wonderful. And we got friendly with him and Linnell, his wife. And yeah, the connection is still there. We don't do it often. But he's great. But that was my, imagine being charged with hijacking and rape, and you're under the influence. So anyway, that's all besides me, and I keep going. And now I discover Blondie. By now, my skills are impaired at times. I get a call. I remember I'm sitting on the toilet in my little office because I still only had one assistant. These people let's hire 27 people for the company. Okay, but maybe you could have done it with one. And I'm sitting on the toilet. I get a call from a publicist, Toby Mamus. He says, Johnny, listen to me. He said, you got to come to CBGB's tonight. There's this act they call Blondie. And by that time, in my mind, I don't go to see like acts at CBG. I'm above that. It's knocking on my door, everybody. David Bowie, I'll tell you that story. And he says, you got to come see. They have an agent. This is his name. We became later in years very friendly. He said, you got to come. So I walk into CBGB's. If you've ever been there, it's a long place. It's like a railroad flat. You have no visibility.
Early 80s, I was there.
Yeah, okay. This was 1980. I'm in the back because the place is sold out. And I see this blonde girl doing her thing and jumping up and down. She did a thing called the pogo. I had to do the pogo just to see her. But Toby was right. At the end of the night, I went backstage. I said, I'm Jonny Podell. I want to be your agent. And as we got to know each other, they fell in love. Not only did they want me to be their agent, they fired their manager. I said, well, legally, I can't be a manager and agent. And so I still had those skills. But Fast forward later, I helped bring them to stardom, and by now she's doing plenty of drugs. I won't get more specific than that.
So, first off, I just want to tell you, I believe it was 1979, 1980, Blondie came along with the whole group to a law school class, a summer class I took. Marty Silfen was the teacher.
Yeah.
And Blondie came in and talked with us. Would wonder whether you might have been there.
No, I'll tell you what it is, though. You mentioned the great name, really fun. By now, I've lost my office. I'm hanging by a thread, but I still have Blondie. My skills had really but I found Blondie. I don't have an office, so I used Marty Silfen's office. He was great. And he was the straightest, squarest guy, and he's friends with this freak who's nuts in his office group. Johnny Groupie's coming in, and he also, I've been very lucky. I've only had 2 bosses. Most of my career, I had my own businesses, but at one time I ran the music department of William Morris for 6 years, 88 to 94, and then from 94 to 2000, I ran the worldwide music department of ICM and had 300 people under me. And I always had good bosses. Always. It's really crazy. It's like people hate working for somebody. No. Monica and I guess we weren't separated yet. We officially got married. We met in 69, same time as the music thing. We got married in 72, and I get a call from Monica in 77, the year Brittany was born. And she says, let's take a meeting with Burt Podell. Burt Podell was a legendary, no relation, music business. Business manager, and he had everybody. Madonna, he had he was charming, smart. He had an office with more gimmicks and tchotchkes and memories, and Burt Podell, legendary guy who, I don't know why people don't speak more highly of him. And he handled money for people. So Burt calls me in and he says, listen, because Monica had gone to Burt and said, what are we going to do? He's going to burn through all this money. It seems there's not enough money. Sly once said, Sly Stone, when somebody said, you got $1 million non-recoupable advance? Today that money might be worth $50 million. Usually advances are recoupable against your earnings. Warner Brothers gave him, and I said to his agent, oh my God. He said, Johnny, with people like you and Sly, there's never enough money. It doesn't matter how much. You'll fuck it all up. So Monica went to Burt. Burt was a real great guy, like the family guy. And he said, call him in. We got to get him. Let's buy a house so you own something. Let's get him out of this city where it might be harder to do drugs. Burt never judged me. And so we moved to Englewood, New Jersey. Brittany was born. I barely made it for the birth.
Barely what?
Made it to the birth. I'll never forget. So it's 77. Blondie was 80. And so it was before Blondie. And by now I had been to, how many rehabs? I had been to 1 rehab. It lasted 1 day. The Allman Brothers sent a private plane, kind of an intervention, and flew me to Smyrna, Georgia, where a couple people had gotten clean. They didn't know rehabs then. It was called a mental hospital with a drunk wing. And I was with a bunch of rednecks. They watched Hee Haw at night and Benny Hill, I'll never forget. Once I had seniority, then I said, guys, there's a new sheriff in town. And I came home and, the New York Dealers Association was waiting outside my door singing When Johnny Comes Marching Home. So that sobriety lasted a day. And then in 78, and then so Burt calls me in and says, look, we're going to buy a house and blah, blah, blah. So we buy a house. As it turned out, it wasn't harder to get drugs in Englewood, New Jersey. And Monica's very pregnant. And it's like D-Day. But my favorite client is playing at the Ritz, Kid Creole and the Coconuts. To show you what drugs make a really nice guy, because I am at my heart a really nice person, respectful of women. I say to Monica, I'm going to go in to see Kid Creole. She's due. What happens? I go, I love Kid Creole and the Coconuts. I didn't make a lot of money from them, but they were my favorite. And I'm leaving the Ritz at 4 in the morning. And all the doorman goes, hey, Johnny, Monica's been calling looking for you. There were no cell phones then. I said, oh, my God, I got to the hospital just in time. But how do you leave your 9-month pregnant wife? Your sense of right and wrong gets all distorted. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't even make sense.
That's the least of it, but yeah, at least you got there.
Yeah, I got there. Of course, they asked me to leave the room that she was giving birth because I was disruptive.
Shocking.
So I ran home to Englewood. She was still, after she gave the birth, and they threw me out. And on the way out of the hospital, I said, oh, wait, don't they have a thing called drug lockers here? Oh, no, I'd never heard of a drug locker. And I passed the thing called drug locker, and I'm sitting there going like this. And I'm putting everything I know in there, but none of the names were recognizable. By now, I'm doing cocaine and heroin, sniffing cocaine, later on to be smoking cocaine. But I see one thing I recognize. It was called sodium pentothal. I recognize the name. They called it the truth serum. I go home to Englewood. I'll tell you the truth, man. God has watched over me. So, I make jokes, and my wife says, well, you shouldn't make jokes. You almost died. So I go home. I'm alone with sodium pentothal. I get a syringe. I had never shot up. Remember, what do they do in the movies? Oh, you tie a band around your arm till you see a vein. I have great veins for shooting up. But
Very good. Did. For people who can't see, Johnny has great veins.
Great veins. And I take the needle, like I see it on TV. I put it in the sodium pentothal, then I go, to see it pop out. That's ready. The veins popping, and I go to shoot it in, and I just see an air bubble. And I will never forget this. Air bubble, embolism, that I knew. I wasn't that fucked up, and I stopped. You can die from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know how to shoot up, but I mean, to show you on the night of Britney.
My God.
On the night of Britney's birth, my angel, on the night of Britney's birth. And I went to another rehab, New Jersey. But now addicted to heroin.
How long did you stay in the rehab?
I did heroin every day. People get, the city's dry, whatever, middle-class user. I did heroin every day for 2 years. Never, always found a way to get it. And, I mean, I go into this rehab, and it's this bright, sparkly, energetic personality that it was like, what is Charlie Brown with the black cloud? I couldn't smile the first 2 weeks. It was called Honesty House. I remember I'd go to all the sessions. I had never been depressed before, or since. I remember either when in rehab or after I started to really have compassion for people that have depression. I couldn't handle it I couldn't smile. It's impossible that Jonny Podell didn't smile. I didn't smile for 2 weeks. Anyway, I got out, managed to say something. Little Monica was great, supportive, but I couldn't really stay sober. We're still living in Englewood. My office is on 57th Street, right near the Fisk Building, 250 West 57th. I'd come in, I would take the bus in, I'd kiss her goodbye. I'm so codependent. I'd leave. I still do this with my kids and my wife. And she'd say, bye, I'll see you at dinner time. I said, yeah, love you, leave. Then come back, kiss her goodbye. Hi, just want to tell you I love you. Be home and say, I do this 3 times. I used to do it with my mother. I still do it with my wife. I still do it with my kids.
3 times. All right.
3 seemed to be the number. And, but of course, I'd go into town. What would I do before going to the office? Score some heroin. And that'd be non-functional. But I had still my career, because I had lost everything. But then this guy in the South, Phil Walden, the manager of the Allman Brothers, he had an agency. He says, why don't we become partners? He says, you in New York, leave all the back office functions to me. You just sign them. That's your gift. You just attract them and sign them, and we'll do all the finances, the specifics, etc. So it was crazy. A new life. We had everybody. So Alice Cooper, who had drugged out, Allman's had drugged out, all now back together. Now I'll never forget when I knew we really hit it. Charlie Daniels band sold out 2 nights at Nassau Coliseum. And we were killing it, and I was barely functioning. But I still had that thing to attract. Anyway, it was downhill from here. At some point, I went back out of the rehab to smoke Freebase. And Freebase is like nothing anybody's ever felt.
It's the predecessor to crack cocaine.
President, the cracker, the businessmen decided, well, why just sell Freebase, pure cocaine, to Jonny Podell at $3,000 a night, which he can afford? Why don't we get it in a way where it's just $5 a hit to the common man? And that's what happened. And I'm smoking, and you can't stop. I was with my business partner last night, a hugely successful guy named Michael, called for breakfast yesterday morning. And I said, Freebase was so powerful that my first attempt at being sober coming out of that place was a fourth floor cockroach-infested walk-up on 3rd Avenue and 37th. When you walked in where the mailboxes were, those people had all peed there. And then when I'd walk up to the 4th flight, I'd close my eyes and turn on the light and count to 100 so all the cockroaches could disappear. I didn't have a phone. I did have a phone, and I had a mattress on the floor. That was it. And believe it or not, Monica was still letting me see the kids. And I was telling Michael, and I'll tell you and your audience, the Freebase thing is so powerful. Picture one of those glass pipes, and the beast, which I call my addiction, his hand goes up through the stem, and it's on my throat. Now the phone rings. I normally, as I was saying at breakfast, I wouldn't pick it up. Somehow I do. And he goes, Johnny, it's Michael. Listen, don't hang up. I know you're having some hard times, and obviously, he's rich. And he says, but I'm leaving town or I'm retiring. He said, I got a bag of cash. You don't have to talk to me. You don't have to do anything. It's just here. Just come on down. Let me give you a hug. Take the care. I never would have made it down those steps. Think about that. Think about that. I'm a drug addict with no money. A guy's downstairs with a bag of, who knows, then might have been $50,000, which could have been worth a few $100,000. Who knows? I could never have left that. So now it's bad. Monica finally, I get arrested in Englewood after my bottom was I had 2 bottoms, but it was very cinematic, car chases. Because what would happen, I'd come home every night. I'd tell Monica, I'll be home at 6. Hi, Monica, I'm going to be a little late. Be home at 7, 8, 9. Because I couldn't leave the pipe. Now, and every night I'd come home around 2 o'clock, but I couldn't even walk in the house without stopping in a driveway. And so think about it. 20 minutes from the city, I couldn't even make it home without stopping with the pipe in a driveway. It's 4 in the morning. Every night Monica put up with this. And I would take a hit to give me the courage to go home. But right after the hit, you immediately crashed. Anyway, finally the jig. This was repeated night after night after night. She stood by me, and then, Monica, you're the hero of the story. I didn't realize. All of a sudden, I see 2 cop cars. And so I know they're trying to catch me. Somebody must have called and said some creeps in the driveway. So in trying to evade them, I kept making right turns. Because if you picture my little, by the way, the Rolls Royce was gone by now. I had a broken down Toyota Corolla. And I would keep turning right so that they couldn't see my left door, which I would open. In every corner, I would drop another piece of paraphernalia because I know they're going to get me. So I would drop the pipe, I would drop the stash, Now there's 4 police cars. It's 4 in the morning. It's Englewood, New Jersey, a quiet town. Sirens are blasting. I'm freaking out. I'm trying to get rid of the evidence. And all of a sudden I pull to the main section of Englewood. I think it's called Main and something. And I see, in addition to the 4 behind me, there's 1 on each corner. There's 4 in front of me. I turn off to the railroad tracks, and the car breaks down. Next thing I know, I'm pulled out of the car, handcuffed, guys kicking me in the ribs, breaking, That was a moment. And guess what I was thinking about while I was in the jail overnight?
It has to be getting high.
No.
No?
What am I going to tell Monica?
What are you going to tell Monica? You're in jail, kicked in the ribs, cop cars all over the place. What am I going to tell Monica? That's amazing.
In a way, it's a love story. Because then if you think about it, that my fear of what I'm telling Monica was even stronger than I got to get some more shit. I got to tell Monica all this, you know. Anyway, so it deteriorates from there. Monica eventually had to let me go. It was, no, I knew what happened. I kept doing it. And one night, she opened the door at 4 a.m. I was like, come on. And I said, Monica, I'm sorry, but I can't say I'm sorry anymore. I'm going to leave. I'm so sorry, but I just don't have another sorry in me. And that was the worst year or two of my life. I would call you, and who I barely knew, you know. Let's say, Corey, it's Jonny Podell. I remember, oh yeah, Johnny, how are you? I said, things are a little crappy with the marriage. I'm wondering if I could crash with you for a few days. After about 3 days, you'd ask me to leave because it would be chaos with smoking. And then I'd go down the list of friends. Now I'm calling people that I haven't seen in 20 years, and I ran out.
What year is this?
83.
It's 83. I think it would be a good idea because I know you and I shared some amazing things that happened in the next iteration. 83, if it can take us a little bit because I want people to know what's going on with Jonny today.
Okay, let's do it.
And I want to kind of, can you segue for a few minutes onto
No.
what happened during that period of time?
Well, no, I'll just be brief about the rest of it. That was the bottom. So for a year or so, I don't remember. I just ran out of friends because they'd say, Jonny, I remember my college friend, he idolized me. He dressed like me. He wore my same clothes. He worshiped me, Bob Berman. And I called him. He had an apartment on 34th and Park. And I said, he said, yeah, but Jonny, just do me one favor. No drugs here. You're always welcome. I said, no. 2 days later, he asked me to leave. Because every apartment I stayed in, I either almost burned down or killed their cat, whatever. And so eventually, it was the worst. Now Monica wasn't letting me see the kids. I'm living in a little apartment that I somehow got. Dark, shades drawn, dirty. I knew I had to eat. I only lived for the one call to the heroin dealer a day, praying he has something. I would only go out once a day because I knew I needed nourishment, and I'd go, well, if you go at 1, they're at lunch. If you go at 11, they're on the way. If you go at 3, they may still be at lunch. At 5, they're going home from work. I'd go out at 3:30, grab pizza, and come back. That was my existence.
At this point, your parents are alive?
Dad, no. Mom, yes.
Connected with her during any of this?
Yeah. Well, not on a daily basis. I had bought them a place in Florida. And then they loved it. And unfortunately, my dad died 9 months later. It was the happiest time of their life. My mother lived there for a long time. She just passed when I got out of rehab in 2012. She waited for me to get clean. And then she passed at 97. So she saw me emerge. It's hard, the chronology. So I remember this too. It was my birthday. I would do one call a day. Hi, Monica. Can I say goodnight to the kids here? Hi, kids. I can't really talk long because I was a chant. I said, I would do that when I'm arrested. I would always talk in the Tombs. The guy to let me out for one phone call, and I would go, hi. Oh, hi, kids. Hi, listen, I'm at Macy's. There's a long line for the phone. I just wanted to say goodnight. I love you. I'll call you tomorrow. I never missed a night.
So what happened between that period of time and 2012 when you finally...
So in 1985, I went to Chit Chat Farms in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Which is the
Karen Foundation.
Before Karen, yeah.
Before Karen. And it took, stay clean for a couple of years, AA every day. And then over the next 15 years, I was clean, I wasn't clean, but when I wasn't clean, it was never to the... I have never touched cocaine and heroin again. So that's 40 years ago, rearview mirror. I would take the occasional narcotic cough syrup, some painkillers, but I never let the guy... I resurrected my career. I'm now head of the 2 biggest agencies' music department. I have the kids all the time. Monica and I are friends, and I resurrected my career. Added some new names to the thing, Van Halen and Cyndi Lauper, discovered David Blaine. There were some others, and yeah. And I led a functioning AA way of life. Had girlfriends, lived on the Upper East Side, saw my kids religiously every weekend. My son Cassidy, which was really great. He's living with Mom. I had bought him turntables when he was 10. And so when he was 10, I was clean. And I spent way too much money on these 2 turntables. But, you know, when you're divorced, you're a drug addict, you do anything, you just feel guilty. And I bought him. He had fallen in love at the age of 10 with hip-hop. MTV, loved it. Cut off his hair, wore his pants full of the crack in his butt, and playing the turntables. One day, Monica calls me. She goes, listen, I can't take this music all night. She goes, you want it? We can live with you. My dream. My dream. My dream. Cassidy moved in. I made a sign called All the Vinyl All at a Time. Wound up with customized shelves. He had 4,000 pieces of vinyl, alphabetized by color, by name. He's kind of like that. Anyway, and his career started. And my life was good. And everything was great.
But during this time, you're doing narcotic cough medication?
But not on a regular basis.
So you're going to AA, you're living a sober life, but still dabbling.
But it'll eventually get you. So eventually, in 2010, and it wasn't my fault, I had a surgery on my hand, and the doctor's trying to give me a prescription to Percocet too. Okay, so I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm giving you a prescription for Percocet today. By now, they had done my story in New York Magazine, The Rise and Fall. I said, what part of my story don't you know? I can never go down this rabbit hole again. He said, well, there's no other. I said, listen, why don't we try ibuprofen? He said, no, you don't want to get behind the pain. Anyway, after I have my sponsor pick me up, pick up the prescription, fill the prescription, drop me off, and deliver 1 pill every 4 days, which is what we do for each other. He lived 30 blocks away. I lived on East 66. He lived on East 96. 2 days into this, because I was scared to death of the pain pills. And, because the cough syrup, I forgot one more rehab, had gotten to me. And I had another trip to a rehab, but didn't lose everything. Spent 30 days in Scranton, Pennsylvania, in 2008. And then this thing happened after, because I was on my way to being clean again. 2 days later, I tell Joe, throw out the pills, call the doctor, say that was unnecessary. And this is really important that everybody gets. But, you know, we talk about our addiction. Mine I call the beast. When I sit in AA meetings, I try whenever possible to have a seat empty next to me. So what happens, the beast, I've seen movies in Rehab, they don't die. They go from being a ferocious man-eating cat that wants to kill me to a purring kitten. It never dies.
Doesn't go away, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It never doesn't go away. And I believe, maybe I'm being a little cinematic, metaphoric, that when my beast, my purring kitten, felt that first Percocet, he went like this, okay, Johnny, game's on. And the beast had me shortly, taking 250 extra strength Vicodin a week. The beast had me. 250 extra pain pills. By now, because I was never got drugs off the street, I was like a middle-class user. Now I had 10 pharmacies, 11 prescriptions, 12 doctors, telling everybody that I'm still clean. The number of people I am speaking to now have dwindled down. My kids, Brittany and Cassidy, because they've always been my life. I would even call them from jail. And one business call a day. And I was paranoid. The cops were in my house. By now, I guess it was psychotic. When I'd get up from my bed to go to the bathroom to pee, which was maybe 30 feet, my body would stiff because I know in the bathroom I'm going to get busted. I live in a building. I did. Doorman, concierge, 2 locks on the door. But they're in the house. They're waiting for me.
And this is 2012?
2010 and 2011. I went to rehab in 2012. And I just couldn't leave. And I made one business call a day. You'll appreciate this. I'd get up from the bedroom, tensed up. I'm going to get busted on the way to the kitchen where I keep the pills. My little Layla puppy that had been with me, made it 18 years, would follow me. And I swear, I'd go for the pills, and I'd look down at Layla, and she'd look up at me like, I swear, going, no. And if you ever had a pet, you know that's like your child saying. And I would take the pills. I would wait till the 6th Vicodin kicked in. I only had one good call a day in me. And when they kick in, I would call Peter Gabriel. Hi, it's Johnny. I could sound like this. Oh, hi, Johnny. How are you? I said, oh, I'm good. Can I talk to Peter? Because I still had a business. And she goes, you know what, Johnny? I know he'll love to speak to you, but he's in a meeting. Can he call you back? And I go, oh, fuck. Because the rest of the day, I'm not going to be able to speak. And then the charade went on. I tried to go out of the house one day. And before I got out of the house, because I know the cops are waiting outside. And I'm watching Law and Order all night. So I'm more paranoid. Now I'm going, wait, if they're waiting and they say, can we come in? You can say no, unless they have a warrant. They can't force their way in. And I'm going through all these scenarios that I say, and I go, I gotta get out. And there was a Starbucks across the street. And by the way, one Sunday morning I woke up. Of course, my blinds were drawn and everything. And I opened the blinds, and it was a sunny Sunday. There was a street fair on 3rd Avenue, and everybody was smiling. I'll never forget. I went, oh! I couldn't take the light. I was in darkness. I was in total darkness. The beast had me all over again 30 years later. And finally I say, I'm going to go out. I have to go out. This is crazy. So where am I going to hide the pills? Because I'm going to get arrested. So I say, I'll hide them in my leather jacket. I'll cut a hole in the pocket, in the lining.
Smart.
Smart, right? I go to do it. The lining had already been cut. I go, oh, did I do this already? I went to cut a hole in another leather jacket. They had all been cut, so I must have gone through this every night. Finally, I find a cookie jar with a clown. I said, they're not going to look there, whatever. And I venture down to the street knowing I'm getting arrested. You have no idea. Like, it's funny now. My heart's beating. I'm freaking out. I'm a prisoner to this. And I walk into the street, past the doorman, and the first person I see has a beard and a beanie. It's Serpico. I run back upstairs, and I didn't leave again for 6 months. Serpico, the undercover cop in the movie. I'm like living it right now. I am living it. And then every night I would call my kids. My son had stopped picking up. I got to ask him tonight. I'm going to see him this weekend. He wouldn't take my call. Him and I are brothers. To this day, if I see him on the street, it's not hi, Dad, or hug, Dad. It's lip lock. Every girlfriend ever said, like, what are you two guys, gay? Like, we lip lock on the street. We're that close. Wasn't taking my calls. It was killing me. Those two were my only touch with reality. Otherwise, so maybe a therapist had told him, you're enabling him, don't take his calls, and it was killing me. Brittany would take the calls, but right away, Dad, you don't sound good. Dad, you sure you're not taking, blah, 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 blah. So on this day, I decided I didn't want to be on the defensive, and I'm lying. You know, when you lie and you feel guilty, like, I was brought up, my father, you're only as good as your word and you never lie. By now, I couldn't look in a mirror. I'd go to brush my teeth. I'd see my eyes. I couldn't look. And so this day, I figured I'd put Brittany on the defensive before she could say, what's the matter? I go, what's up with that brother of yours? He doesn't even take my calls. And the moment of grace, she says, Dad, he thinks you're lying. I start to cry, and I said, I am. I have been 2 years. I'm so sorry. Everybody in AA, my friends. I said, I'm so sorry. She goes, Dad, I love you. Call Cassidy. She was just called Cassidy. Now, what made Cassidy pick up? Grace. He picks up, he goes, what? I said, don't hang up. I just spoke to Brittany. I owned up to it. Of course, you knew. I've been taking pills, blah, 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 blah. I'm so sorry. He goes, Dad, I love you. Pack your bags. I know a place to put you. And off I went the next day to Rehab.
That's 2012?
2012, March 2012. We are about to venture into my most important week. And as I walked up those steps with Cassidy, I felt like I was 100, meaning physically.
At the rehab?
Yeah, I think there's 13 steps up to the main house. And I'm with him. He was so supportive. And by now, I'm feeling at peace because my children are back in my life. Sorry, I'm crying. And felt like I was 100. I knew I could get clean because they lock you up. I was pretty sure I could stay clean because I had for many years. But I knew this Johnny was gone. The Johnny that would emerge would be like a 90-year-old Johnny. Hi, it's Corey. I'm in town this week. You want to get together? What are you doing? Oh, doing putt-putt with my granddaughter. And you go, well, what else you doing? I don't know, maybe watching a little golf. And I remember thinking, ugh, that's the life that was my life that I ran from. I walked in, and within 3 days, I surrendered. It was magic. I was taught to meditate by a volunteer. The third day of the meditation, I had a vision. Do you want me to share that vision?
Sure.
First day, they teach you to sit like this, follow your breath. Second day, they teach you a thing called the body scan. It was just me and two other guys in the unit. Okay, feel your toes, feel your nose. And it's amazing when they say that. Everything comes alive. Feel your calves. I don't know if you've ever done that. On the third day, they go, now I want you guys to go to a place you love. Boom. I was there. I was at my favorite beach in the Caribbean. My favorite time of day, not high noon when it's so hot, around 2 o'clock. Half in the ocean, half in the sand, looking out at the horizon. We've all been there, or a lot of us. The only thing different this is with my eyes closed. The only thing different that day is that I never thought or a care in the world. Time goes by. In my head, in the rehab. It's real to me. The water breaks, and slowly a woman starts to emerge from the water. I couldn't make out a lot. I knew she was tall. She had blonde hair. She was thin. And as she walked closer, I realized she was walking towards me. So, our brains are computers. Somebody walks over, your brain starts going, do I know him? Do I know her? Oh, I got to say hello, whatever. So I'm thinking, I guess she's going to ask me something. She gets to the beach and just sits down to my left, assumes the same position, doesn't say a word. 2 hours go by. How do I know? Because out of the corner of my eye, I see the sun setting. I know this time of the year, it's 5:30, and I am getting ready to go back to my place. And all of a sudden, the woman takes her left hand, closes my eyes, puts her hand on my heart, and said, all is well. Well, I open my eyes, and I say, Vinny, Steve, I just met my soulmate, and I'll never be with another woman until I meet her. And that was it. I just thought, boy, that was cool. I didn't make anything of it. I didn't realize till later, not that much later, it was the beginning of a full-on Deepak Chopra, Oprah Winfrey, spiritual awakening. Everything started to change, the way things smelled, tasted, felt, looked. Now I'm in the rehab, but I'm having kind of new conversations, newer than I did last week. And on the phone with old friends, I'm having new conversations, and it's crazy. Other dimensions and this and that and new. But I still don't think anything of it. I'm just like, I loved my last 2-3 weeks in rehab. I mean, I loved it.
There's a qualitative difference in every experience. Everything feels different at this point.
Yes. I get out, and I really, from a jerk when I come in, hating everybody, where's my coffee, where's my gluten-free diet, where's the New York Times, everything you promised me when I interviewed you. And I start going to AA. I decide I'm going to do what I've heard, be the center of the herd, not sit in the back row looking at everybody's butt or clothes. And I did one thing different. I did one thing very, very different. And I went every day. I never said, I said, hi, I'm Johnny. Went to my old home group. I've been going there on and off, like at that time for 40 years. When I'm clean, when I'm not clean, I always did what they said, keep coming back. Somebody'd come up to me when I'd say I have 31 days. I never said 31 days back. So somebody'd come up to me at the end of the meeting. Oh, you know, you should get a book, big book. Oh, you need a sponsor. Oh, I never said, got it, yeah. I kept going, okay, thank you. Upon reflection, I wonder if that made a difference, because what happens, I treated myself as a beginner. And you know that saying, in a beginner's mind, the possibilities are endless. In an expert's mind, the possibilities are few. So now the possibilities were endless. I become so active that I become chair of this group. And by now, I hadn't become chair yet. And every day is great. My business is on automatic pilot. The staff and clients are thrilled that I'm clean. I mean, everybody was so loyal to me. That's why I say, most people say, and I say I'm the luckiest guy on the planet. All my big shot clients hung with me, my staff, and they were well trained. And I'm on this ride. And I remember talking to the staff, and I said, listen, just call me when you're on the 1 yard line. I'm not going to be in a lot. If we're about to get fired, call me 911. And I called the clients. I said, I know you're thrilled I'm clean. They go, oh, Johnny, I'm so excited. And I said, you're probably amused. What's going on? I'm not going to be very much in the office. I think the staff's well taken care of. If you need me, 24/7. If you're going to fire me, 24/7. And so I had the opportunity every day to walk around and spread my light. And I had the light. I had the light. I mean, everybody I touched lit up. I know this sounds egotistical, but I am telling you, I had become like the Pied Piper of New York, hanging at a juice bar, walking up to someone and say, oh, I love your energy. They said, oh, I love yours. And I was always about women. But I would never do anything because I had made that commitment when I was in the rehab that day. And by now, women are throwing themselves there. I remember one of my friends saying, and it was the type of women that I like. And my friend saying, since when did you become a player? I said, it's not that. I'm not doing anything with them. But I mean, I get it, but I was also cocky. I saw that I had the attraction. And I remember once I'm with my best friend and I see these 4 couples at a table, and I go, the way guys do, I go, Guy. He goes, Johnny, they're with guys. This ain't it. I said, 60 seconds later, I'm sitting at the table. Everybody wants to know me. The guys too. Can I have your email? I had what I would call, I don't know another way to say it. It'll be 12 years next week that I'm clean. And I don't know another way to say it. I've been touched by God, and I had the light of God. And I'm walking around the city. It was the most magnificent 14 months I've ever had. I wish it on everybody to have 14 months of grace, meaning I didn't have to work. I could just walk around and be Johnny. And
so that was the beginning of what you have now. In 12 years, what's your anniversary date?
My anniversary date is March 20th. My awakening date is March 25th, the day of that meditation, and my birthday is March 27th. That is a big, big, big week for me. We're like less than 2 weeks away.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's, it was magical. It was magical. And, with all these women, and you have to remember, what are my 2 interests?
Women and Yankees.
Throwing themselves at me, and I never gave in. One made it back to my apartment. And we were just about to, what would they say at NASA? Dock. And I said, you know what? I can't go through with this, Alex. I said, nothing on you. I think you're totally cool, and it's a very long story, and I hope we'll be friends. I just can't go through with it. And so what happened? It's 14 months later. It's Father's Day weekend. I spent the Saturday with my daughter, my grandchildren. I spent the Sunday with my son. He's not like most kids, have lunch with your dad and get rid of him. Started in the morning, then a walk, then a documentary. Then he goes, Dad, introduce me to your new friends and where you hang out. And he's, We spend the day together at 6 o'clock. He says, what do you want to eat? I said, you don't want to get rid of me yet? He says, no, let's get sushi. We go into a sushi restaurant, Avenue A. We're eating. And I look up and I see a woman, very attractive, but didn't want to be seen. Tall, blonde, very thin, long legs, short shorts, running shoes, but no makeup, hoodie down, headphones. When women don't want to be seen, they don't want you to go near them. So I said to my son, I said, look at that woman's legs. Got to be a runner. He said, how do you know? I said, I'll find out. And by then I was really full of swagger. You don't go in somebody's face, male or female. I walk right up to her. We were both 5'10", right up to her hair. And I go, and instead of her like, New York, like, get out of here, I said, those legs, you're a runner, right? And then she threw my swagger. She says, no, actually, I'm a boxer. I wasn't ready for that. My name's Johnny. Do you mind if I ask your name? She said, Allie. I said, you want to hear something crazy, Allie? My boyhood hero and lifetime idol is a boxer. His name is also Ali, Muhammad Ali. Could we exchange numbers and have coffee? Because I'm with my son. It's holy time. And we did. And she later told me she thought, that was a cool pickup line until she came to my house and saw the museum of Muhammad Ali. We made a date, and then this is the part that I love. And then I'll tell you what I'm doing now. And then we make a date. She sits down, and for 45 minutes, she's a girl from a small farm town outside Columbus, 700 people, no traffic light, and a horse. Moved to New York when she was 18 to make her way in the big city. 10-year childhood sweetheart, marriage ended. Dead-end job in fashion. He's walking on a Saturday going, I got to get out of here. You know what do most people do when they're unhappy? I'll move somewhere else, like it's going to change. Guy comes up to her, says, something drew me to you, that I was to hand you a book. They talk for a little while. She doesn't think anything of it. Throws the book home, as she said, and she comes home the next day from work, because she's like a farmer. 8 a.m. at work to 8 p.m., gym till 9, home. She goes home, and in her little studio in the East Village, she sees a book. Now, she had no books in the house. She had heard the word chakra, but didn't know what it was, and was not a spiritual speaker. She opens the book, and the room starts to breathe. And that was the beginning of, she described it so vividly. She's done a book on it. And when she told her wake-up story to Deepak Chopra, who must have heard a million, I'll never forget it, Deepak going, what? What? And she's, for 45 minutes, she's lit up like somebody talking about sex or some people money. I don't say a word. She takes the book to the bathroom, to the subway, to work. She doesn't talk to anybody. She's not dating, nothing. Goes to work, comes home, reads the book. It's getting more psychedelic. She sees God everywhere, God's and everything. Goes home, Mom, do you know there's God everywhere? And the mother just smiles. And one day, and through her body, this is the only part I interrupted, she's describing an energy going through her, racing through her. And I said, like, what did it feel like? And she said, was it like, what did it feel like? It looks like you're having sex telling me the story. She goes, well, no, it felt great, but I was scared it was demonic. And then I said these words. I said, can I interrupt 1 second? I'm a recovering drug addict. When something feels great, I want more. You're a recovering Catholic. Something feels great. It must be the devil. She ends the story by saying the energy was so amazing one day, she could not contain it in the house. She goes out, alternately, laughing and crying, makeup dripping, doesn't know where she is, hysterical, loses a shoe, winds up in Staten Island, and she ends this by saying, I lost my mind and found God. That was our first date. She hadn't asked me, what's your name? Where do you live? What do you do? Then when it was over, she said, what's your story? I tell her about what looked like my humble awakening compared to... Anyway, we start the date, and every night she comes over, we have dinner. But we tell each other the stories, the most exciting. And on the fourth night, I'm on the couch. She says, if you don't mind, I'm exhausted. I'm going to go to sleep. And I said, Allie, and then this woman, she walked out of the water, and I start to cry. I said, that woman was you. And she goes, oh, you didn't know that? I knew it on the first date. Can you believe that? Can you?
That's amazing.
And we now have 2 children.
And you have 2 kids together.
Yeah, we have 2 little ones, about to be 7, about to be 2. We live a spiritual life. We do conscious. We converted my music. She started making me represent these people that write. That was a channeled literature. So she made me represent this channel and then these medium. Now I got a handful of rock stars. I got a handful of spiritual guys that want to be big stars. And one day I'm at the meeting and that I chair on the Upper East Side, and I go, hi, everybody. My name is Johnny. I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic. And welcome to I'm All In, the name of the meeting. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing my dear friend, Corey. Corey. And I go sit and I go, you can't be all in rock and roll and all in consciousness. And with that, I walk from 74th and 1st to 22nd and 5th. I walk into my office. I go, done. And they'll go, what? They knew. I said, I'm done. Rest of my life is going to be to serve God. I'm sorry to pull the rug out from under you. I'll try to get you all jobs with agencies. I'll try to convince the clients to stay with you, but I can't make them. And that began a life. We
This is what point in time is that?
Oh, 2013, 2014. And we had this agency that had become basically a conscious agency, representing some the names and some that want to be bigger.
So
And
today, you obviously are a member of 12-Step Fellowship.
yes,
And you regularly attend meetings. And are you still working, or are you just...
yeah, I'm going to tell you everything. But yes, I am religious. I am a devout AA'er. There's no way I would still be here. No way. First of all, I mean, who would put up with a guy at the stupid meeting, qualifying high sometimes, doing hospitality? That was my favorite job, greeting people. But sometimes I wasn't all there, and telling people I'm clean. I mean, very few people or organizations keep accepting you like that with love. Yeah, no, I went to my first meeting in 1978. So it took me all this time to get, God willing, 12 years. And so what happened, the next move, and then I will get to now. One of the things I also did when I was clean, it's funny, somebody said, how will you do all the things you do? And even my success, I said, I have good instincts. I don't really have any skills. I have good instincts. One instinct, from the time I got out of the rehab, I never watched the news during the whole awakening period. During the whole awakening period, I never watched the news. Then, of course, comes the guy who's trying to be president. There's so much, and I turn on the news. And Trump gets elected. So when was that? 2017?
2016.
And the women march. They're all angry. So I go to march with them, but for no passion any more than when I go see the marathon. It's a New York event. I go. But the march moved me. I mean, marches do move. Oh, and I should tell you, about 6 months before, Ali said, we're running out of money. Maybe you should produce a festival, a women's festival. I said, no, I'm all into consciousness now. I hadn't been to a concert. I shut it off. I found out that common characteristics of addicts, sometimes they're all black and white. I could have done both, but no, I'm doing God's work now. So I said no, and then I marched with the women, and then when I came home, and you know what? A lot of marches are angry. I don't do well with anger, even though anger brings change. But they also had a sense of humor. The hat said pussy power, and there was a fun anger, not a Ku Klux Klan rally. And I went home and I put on the news for the first time, 5 years. And And I saw that they not only marched in New York, they marched in D.C., they marched in Boston, they marched in Paris, and I went, wow, I got inspired. And I looked at Allie, I said, you want a women's festival? We're going to do it Jonny Podell style. 3 days, 100,000 women, yoga in the morning from 6 a.m. to 1. Then the most important voices of our time during the transition. At the time, it would have been Oprah, Michelle Obama, Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gill, whoever you think they are. And then at night would be the concert. Alicia Keys, not Little Kim. Pink, not. And yeah, we were doing it. Me, and I invited my sometimes partner to this. And it took a while to get the funding, because you can imagine a lot of money. And we finally got it. And what happened?
COVID.
If you want to see this guy with swagger and all deflated, really deflated. Fast forward. The festival's name is Iris, and it's about the divine feminine. At the time, it was to celebrate and empower women. It was before Me Too, before Time's Up, because I remember both kids, my greatest critics, Ivy League education, know everything. Said, Dad, you really got some idea. First, you get sober before anybody that we know. Then you awaken before anybody we know. And now, this is a movement. I said, yeah. And they said, what's crazy, Dad? You really believe it? I said, oh, yeah. I think us testosterone-fueled men have taken the world as far as we can. Agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, technological revolution, brink of disaster. I am very much for turning the keys to the kingdom over to a softer, kinder, gentler, more compassionate species, male or female. And so it's very deflating. And okay, fast forward. My partner, amongst other things, I'll tell you his name, you can look him up, you're going to go, oh my God, he's so accomplished, he makes me look like a failure. And one of the things he bought recently was the Big Apple Circus. So he said to me the other day, and the festival's called Iris. So it's several years since the creation. And now it's more about the divine feminine, celebrating womanhood, motherhood, Mother Earth. And it's all Allie's creation. And Michael said, you know what, I got an idea. I own the Big Apple Circus. That tent at Lincoln Center is mine for 6 months. He said, the circus is only there for 2 months. Why don't we do everything? Iris, music things, up close and personal. We'll turn, anyway. So that's what we're doing.
And when is that going to be?
October.
In New York City?
At the tent at Lincoln Center. It's called Under the Big Top. And the first event for a week will be Iris, a celebration.
And tell us about what's going to happen then.
It's going to be several days in the week, not sure yet, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's going to be, so the tent will be painted on the outside. It will not look like the Big Apple Circus. You know what the tent is, right? On the side of
Grandma and I used to be very close.
Oh, wait, I forgot you. Didn't you say you loved the circus?
Well, I have kids, and Grandma the Clown was the Big Apple Circus.
Yeah. So what happens is the tent's going to be painted outside like a color pink, and you will walk in. It's a 3-hour event. We're not doing like a festival. And the event will start, you'll walk in, pitch black. And then all of a sudden, you'll hear a voice. Hi, everybody. They call it the voice of God off camera. Hi, everybody. My name is Iris, and this is my story. And Iris will unfold the story of the divine feminine. And I could tell you the script, but I don't know that it's important now. And it's simultaneously a ballerina with one pin light on her will pirouette across the floor. She will be the embodiment of Iris during these 3 hours. And there will be digital projection inside of women doing amazing things that will make you feel. And it's not just women. To give you an example, musically, John Legend is that type. I know him, and I know it. He's a woman's man. You can see the way he is with his wife, and he's gentle and compassionate. And So the whole time you'll see digital projection. And then there'll be a music. And then at different points, talent will be introduced. There'll be hopefully Alicia Keys. We're presenting to her in 2 weeks. I mean, it's a big reach. She plays stadiums, and he has a 1,500 seat. But if you Google when we're done, Alicia Keys, she only speaks about this as if she co-created Iris. So I'm hoping this will resonate with her. And there are others like her. There will be that interlude. Again, I want to see it with just a pin. The place will still be dark with a pin light on the piano and her. There will be speakers like Amanda Gorman, Elizabeth Gilbert, who did Eat, Pray, Love, Michelle Obama. I'm blanking right now, but we have all the great
Sounds amazing.
women speakers. There'll be a dance troupe who I'm going to see today. It's funny, social media is great. I made friends when I lived upstate for 5 years in Rhinebeck with this woman. Oh, I was looking for a place to do concerts, and there's a ballet company that had this unbelievable facility. She wound up leaving, and she runs the Baryshnikov Center now. And I see her on social media, so we met several times. So I always like her. The other day, I reached out to her. I said, I'm doing some amazing things. Would you like to talk? So we're talking tomorrow. She says, and if you'd like, I'll give you a tour. Because I thought, now that maybe instead of a no-name troupe, have that troupe. And it's going to be phenomenal. We're going to have the best digital artist, the best visual artist, the best talent. But the talent, I'm probably being a little too anal. I want to really stick in that groove. Divine feminine, compassionate, soft, considerate, kind, gentle.
The interesting thing, it seems to me, is that your story from beginning to end is extraordinary.
Thank you.
And at the same time...
But then I got to leave. I didn't realize what time.
I know. I'm going to kick you out very soon. You're going to kick me out very soon. But your
Just
story...
let me look really quick, because I didn't realize this.
I'm going to wrap with what I'm saying
Hold
now.
on.
Your story is, from beginning to end, both extraordinary and at the same time ordinary. But put it all together, and it seems to me that each one of us in recovery is a miracle. And what you described today to me and for us is, representative of the fact that we can really do unbelievable things if we put down the drink, put down the drug. In your case, the substances don't matter. But what you're doing today, the level at which you're operating, you're at a different plane right now than the square life that you were taught at the beginning, the square life that you thought you were going to have in 2012 when everything would be over, when you walked into that rehab in 2012 with your kids up to 13 steps. There's nothing square about you. That's what I'll tell you. And I'm so grateful for your sitting here and telling your story. This is going to be one of those interviews where there's very little Corey and a lot of Jonny, and that's good. That makes for a really interesting interview. I'm so grateful for your being here and having the privilege of spending 2 hours plus or so looking at those eyes. Thanks. I'm not going to let you go. We're married.
We're married.
And I'm glad about that.
No, me too, man. Really, what a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. The way we end these things is with a hug.
There's a question you asked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, hurry, because
Okay.
I'm late for I was having such a good time. I'm late.
This is the crosstalk question.
Go.
You're talking now to young Jonny at some age, maybe the age is 10, 12, 14. What advice would you give young Jonny right now, knowing what you know now, giving him advice about growing up and living life?
Be authentic. If possible, find something you love to do. And as the cliche, you'll never have to work another day in your life because it'll be fun. But equally, or maybe more important, do not succumb to the shortcut. Do not succumb to using substances although it may sound fun, and it may be fun, but look where it led me, to a hell that I would never wish on anybody. So I'm not being a teetotaler. I have friends that drink. I have friends, I guess, that, use drugs socially, weed or whatever. But as my son said, when I was telling my son this story, my daughter said, well, can't I have a glass of champagne? And this was like, she was like 13. I said, why, are you seeing somebody? And she does drink, and thank God she hasn't had the disease. And my son said, not for me, not for me. I want to feel everything. I want to feel the glory. I want to feel the pain. I want to feel the sadness. I want to be present every moment of my life. And fortunately, he's gone that way. So it's yours to choose. But what I'm really saying, and then I got to run, is every dream you ever had in school, every dream you ever had when you got out of school can be erased by falling into that rabbit hole. So be careful. Have healthy friends. And God bless you.
Thanks, Jonny.
Thanks, man. Great. What a pleasure. Sorry I didn't let you talk.
I didn't want to